Welcome to Cricbuzz Chatter in association with Cricbuzz 11, the fantasy gaming app from the house of Cricbuzz. Well, this was a day that definitely belonged to England. Walking in, it was sunny, bright, crisp, and always, as you expect in England, it becomes a beautiful batting day, and England made most of it. Joe Root, Ben Stokes being the most destructive among the two who batted today. Joe Root made a magnificent 150. First up, is the Yorkie in you very happy seeing Joe Root do so well?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's from my club as well in Sheffield.
Oh,
I know his family really well. It's a family with his mum and dad, Matt and Helen, granddad Don. You want to meet Grandad Don? He's Joe's biggest critic. He'll be on the phone to Joe tonight saying, "Why did you get out for 150?" He wants double centuries to say Grandad Don, and his brother Billy plays for Glamorgan. So they are a cricket tragic family, and that enthusiasm that you see in Joe Root. I always say in cricket, and particularly international cricket, you always need a youngster to come into the team every now and again to bring that enthusiasm and that love for the game. And the senior pros, we all get a little bit cynical and a little bit, oh, we're on the road and we're playing again and such a long game. And suddenly a youngster comes in and he reminds you why you played the game. Joe Root is still that person. Joe Root is still the youngster in his heart, in this dressing room, driving this team with enthusiasm, the love of the game. He's a cricket tragic. He absolutely adores the game, and that's why he spends so much time out in the middle.
Having spent a little bit of time with him in the SA20 when I played with him, I couldn't agree with you more. He's just so, he actually has a lot of fun, does the things that the team requires. But you look at his scores, and that's when you realize the enormity of what a player he is. For example, since 2021, he has got 21 test hundreds, Michael. It's not even a joke. The next two are actually part of the Fab Four, Kane Williamson and Steven Smith at 10 hundreds. That is quite a stat to have, isn't it? For a man who's actually, when the world complained about the fact that he wasn't converting a bit after his 50s, he's turned it around.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, and then suddenly he started to concentrate. He was playing for a few years, and then he thought, you know what, I'm going to get lots of hundreds. He's now got 12 hundreds against India. He's got 16 150s. He's got 38 Test match centuries, and he's still going.
And he chased after, certain milestones. No, it's wrong to say he chased after, but he actually went past a few milestones. Number one being he went past Rahul Dravid, Jack Callis, and after that, in a while, he went past Ricky Ponting to become the second highest run getter ever in the history of Test. Now, there is one name that exists on top, and he has been the man to go after for many a generation now. Sachin Tendulkar, 200 tests, and he's ahead by more than 2,000 runs as we speak today. But if there's one person
But
in the
DK,
history
can I
of the
just
sport,
bring
yeah,
something to your attention?
sure.
The top two in the world game of all time, two Yorkshire players.
Very
Sachin
true,
Tendulkar and
Dilka.
Joe Root.
So for all youngsters, if you ever want to play county cricket, Michael feels you should join Yorkshire. I'm saying go to Surrey because that's better pitch to bat on. Yorkshire at the start of the summer, you don't want to be there. Ask anyone. Ask Yuvraj Singh, ask Cheteshwar Pujara, ask Michael Vaughan himself, and he'll tell you. But the fact is that he is going after breaking records. But the fact is that he still wants to enjoy batting like he did today, which is a magnificent 150. But also tell us, do you really think he's going to catch up with Sachin Tendulkar?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I absolutely do. I mean, he's 2,500 runs away, and as long as he doesn't get a bad injury, I guess the Ashes series in the winter will be a big one if it doesn't go well for England. And I'm quietly confident that they should be able to compete really hard. And I guess if Joe had a really tough time, you can sometimes wake up and you lose your mentality and you lose your real enthusiasm. But I just don't see it. I really don't see it. I've looked into my crystal ball.
Oh,
I've looked into my crystal ball. I've looked at the numbers with the stats guy that we work on the BBC with Andy Zoltzman. And if he continues to go at the rate that he's been at in the last 2 or 3 years, I think it'll be the fourth test in 2027 against Australia. And Pat Cummins will bowl one on his hip and he'll just go, thank you very much. And he'll go past Sachin Tendulkar. So that's the dream. That's the crystal ball. But I absolutely think he will, DK. I think he's got the game. Obviously, I think he's got the enthusiasm. He's got the love. He's still young. He's 34. And you think that, Sachin played till he was 40. Now, I'll ask you, and Sachin is a god. We know Sachin is a god. But do you think that the Yorkie Joe Root will surpass the Yorkie Sachin Tendulkar in a couple of years?
I mean, let's start by saying Sachin Tendulkar is not a Yorkie. He represented for one season. But after
That's
that,
about one game.
Jeffrey Boycott just somehow found a way to get him in there. But jokes apart, in case he misses that absolute crystal ball that you showed us, Pat Cummins flicking. 6 months later, England come to India and they play a five-match series and against India. And if he is there around till then, I have no doubt that, with the form that he is showing, what are the two most important things for a player of his caliber to actually need to in fact play till that time? One, you need to win matches. That otherwise at times you just get very frustrated with yourself, which I think is happening. He's in a great team. He's got a great leader in Ben Stokes who's looking at winning every time. And the second thing is, how much do you enjoy playing the game? And I think he's enjoying it as much as ever done. So these two things tell me he'll be around for at least 3 to 3.5, if not 4 years, play a couple of Ashes, which is what all Englishmen want to do, and ideally win one Ashes in Australia, which would be a dream come true for him. But in spite of all that, I really feel he'll get within touching distance of getting up.
You
Getting
mentioned a really good point there. There's some players that bat and they bat for their number,
Yeah.
and they really like to get their own score. I always look at Joe and think he's batting to get runs for the team. He really is a team batter. He wants to stay out there for a long period of time because he wants his team to be on top. He wants to win games of cricket. I generally feel he gets more love out of England winning than getting 100 himself. He knows that by getting 100, he's going to help England winning. So it's like a double whammy. But he's the one, there's so many players that have done this. But Joe for England, over the course of the time that I've watched him, and I've been around and I speak to him, he generally just wants to win. He wants his team to be in that dressing room afterwards, celebrating a success of winning the 5-day Test match, and that's really his greatest strength for this team. Is the rest of the team know that he's so desperate to win. That's why he wants to spend a bit of time.
It's quite interesting, Michael, because when Joe Root made his debut, Sachin was still playing international cricket. When Sachin retired, which was in 2013, he put out a cute little tweet. Sachin made his debut for India before I was born, then played in my test debut. Thank you, Sachin. Which tells you about how he looked at Sachin, revered Sachin probably to an extent. And today he is getting closer to what Sachin achieved as a cricketer. And that's quite phenomenal to think of. But for Joe Root to have had the consistency across that amount of time is also phenomenal. And that's what made Sachin special, because he played 20 years, but Joe Root has done that in probably 13 or 14 years. A, it tells you the amount of matches England play, but B, the consistency. I cannot think of Joe Root actually having had a bad patch for a very long time. He had a pretty bulletproof technique.
Yeah, and also, I think over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, there's some really good bowling attacks. There's some good pace bowlers around the world. The Australian attack's fantastic. South Africa, obviously India, New Zealand, real quality team, quality attack. So, sometimes you look at eras and the old stage was, oh yeah, the bowling's not quite as good, that was quick and there's not as much pace and bounce. Well, this last 6 or 7 years, I think batting has been difficult at times. In the UK, the pitches have changed of late, but you earn the right. You earn the right, and you don't just score runs. Even if the wicket is quite flat, you've got to earn the right to do that. And there's no one earns the right more than Joe Root. The first morning, who's the first person in the nets at 8:45 with Marcus Trescothick, the batting coach? Joe Root. He's the one that's leading it. He's the one that keeps trying to get better and better and better, bringing new little tricks into his game. He's a wonderful lad, but not just as a cricketer. I always say in the UK we have some great sports people, but I honestly put Joe Root as a role model right at the top because he plays the game with a smile. And my kid's playing the game and trying to.
And he's doing quite well. Archie is a good off spinner who can bat quite nicely, and he's done well even in the India under 19, England under 19 games now.
Yeah, and he's enjoying it. And I always say, just look at Joe. He smiles. Even though the pressure is hard at the highest level, Joe Root sends the message that he's still enjoying playing the game. And I think it's a great lesson to all sports people, whoever you are and whatever sport you're playing at, even when it gets tough and it's hard out in the middle, just a little smile to send the message that it's still there to be enjoyed. Playing at this level, if you can arrive and say, I'm still going to enjoy it, even though it's tough, I'm still going to enjoy it. I think there's no one better than Joe Root to send that message.
And this actually leads us to a hotspot today. Michael, a pretty straightforward one today, I feel. Is Joe Root the greatest ever English cricketer?
Ooh, question.
There's Botham, there's Anderson, there's plenty more that you would know, but is he the best?
I would say not by far. That's completely wrong of me to say that. He's England's greatest batter.
England's greatest batter.
Greatest batter, yeah, without any question, across all the formats. I just think he's a wonderful player, and we've had some really good players that have played for England. In terms of the greatest cricketer, I have a feeling that his captain might
Ben Stokes.
He might pip in an event. And in terms of the all-round quality of what Ben brings in terms of bowling, batting, captaincy, World Cup wins, two of them, they're very close. The good thing about this side, Joe and Ben have played since they were kids together, so they're great mates. And who was out there when Joe passed Rahul Dravid, past Jack Callis, past Ricky Ponting, was his great mate Ben Stokes at the other end. So there's a real good combination. You know, Anderson Broad, this era of cricket for Alistair Cook. We've had some exceptional cricketers, as of obviously India over the course of the last 10 years. But we seem to be developing a culture around our team that is allowing these players to go out and play with freedom. But today, actually, I thought the Bazballers, they play with a great mature sense. They are learning. They are a team now that don't just play this one way. They get on top of the Indian side and they just ground it out. At times they had to fight, particularly at the start of the day's play when the spinners came on. Eventually, we'll get onto that, I'm pretty sure. But you know, they had the field spread, and the likes of Ben Stokes, Joe Root just went bop just into the gaps, ones and twos. I think a year or two ago, the Bazballers probably would have been bowled out
They
today.
probably treaded more towards the entertainment aspect of it.
Yeah, now that it's about winning, and they made that decision and announced it really at the start of the summer that this year it's about winning games of cricket. And sometimes in sport you have to create the culture. And I think Ben and Baz over the course of the last few years, particularly the first year or two, they were creating this culture that they wanted players to express themselves, play with freedom, enjoy the moment. Now it's got to the stage that they can still express themselves when the time is right. But when they get on top, you look at the chase at Headingley, they played differently. You know, you just certain times in this series, they've just played a different style to what we've seen over the course of the last 3 years. And I thought today was the best day that I've seen them play because they're on top. And I said, oh, they'll just give a few away. They lost two just after lunch. And oh, here we go again. You know, they're going to make a few mistakes. They didn't. They just went back into the shells and just knocked it around. Sense played it at the end. Even in the last 40 minutes, I was thinking, oh, they'll probably just play a few shots. You know, they're so far ahead of India. They didn't. They just play till tomorrow. We'll bat a bit more on day four. We'll give India absolutely no chance. And that's the sign that the England side are really maturing and becoming a real smart cricket team.
This English team has the potential to play a lot of exciting cricket. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they just think what's required for the game and they go after it. But if there is a place that you can always play exciting contests, all you need to do is download the Cricbuzz 11 app, pay 1 rupee, and you can play all the exciting contests that's available on the app there for you. Another person who batted really well today was the person that you spoke about in the running for England's greatest cricketer, Ben Stokes. Quite a mature innings. It wasn't the most fluent, but towards the end, he really got going and then he got cramps and he went out, he came back, and again, he's still not out. He is there. He fought it out. It's quite a nice innings for him.
Yeah, he played well. Yeah, they kept the spinners on, and understandably, when he first came out there, the second new ball could have been taken. Ben's got a bit of a vulnerability against spin, so India went with the spin twins, but his defence was strong. Against seamers, he's got a wonderful technique. He really does just play with that
Big straight bat,
straight
isn't it?
bat,
Yeah.
like wide. He just push, get past that. Yeah, so look, for the skipper, it's his first half century in a while. His bowling's been incredible throughout the summer. To see him out there batting for a period, I look at the jigsaw puzzle that you have to arrive in Australia with a jigsaw.
It's all about the Ashes, isn't it?
Yeah, it has to be now. Look, we've won this series. We moved on to the next one. It is about kind of getting the pieces right. You know, Zach Crawley showed huge character this week. Ollie Pope showed better technique today than I've seen him for the previous few weeks. That head and that balance of a forward defence, fantastic. And then you look at, unfortunately for Shoaib Bashir, he misses out with an injury, but it allows Liam Dawson in. Liam Dawson's batting is going to be a big strength. And tomorrow we'll see a bit of Liam Dawson's spin with a bit of action from the surface. So that's what I talk about, all these pieces of the
Just
jigsaw.
fitting into that puzzle.
Yeah, and Ben Stokes getting a few runs, getting a bit of time out in the middle, playing nicely. So things are happening nicely for England. I worry a bit about Ben's body. Once again, he had to go off. I've never seen him go off for cramp. And then he came back and he looked like he was struggling somewhat.
Well, look, it was really warm today. I went down for a lunch interview there and it was pretty warm. So I got to cut him some slack because he really fought it out. It was hot. Michael's being a little hard because out here in Manchester, they don't see sunny days. And when the sun is out there, like, oh my God, that's a lot for us to take in.
It surprises the body. Even when it gets to around 15 degrees in Manchester, the body gets a shock.
That's true, very true. But what you heard from Michael is basically England setting up for a brilliant Ashes. On the other hand, there's an India-England series happening right here, which Michael already feels is done and dusted. And to be fair, I think that's what it felt like today, especially with the way we bowl. Hard luck to India because they kind of came to a day which was very good for batting and they landed bang in the middle of it. But again, it almost felt like Bumrah was keeping things tight, but there was nothing else happening for the other end. It was a bit wayward all over the shop. Runs went quite a bit, both sides of the wicket, and almost every second over there was a boundary. If you look at the bowling analysis, almost all the bowlers, barring the spinners and Bumrah, under just about around the 5 mark, late 4 mark, which is not what you would like to see. But having said that, I thought Mohammad Siraj definitely gave it everything that he had. Quite unlucky in his spells. Anshul Kamboj looked a bit pale. You could see he was very, very nervous, wasn't at his best. And it is not something that if you followed domestic cricket, you'll think this boy has a lot to give for international cricket for India. But today it felt like because the pace wasn't there, he actually got taken down a lot of times. But the one thing that everybody spoke about was Washington Sundar. He wasn't brought on till the 69th over. And when he came in, he bowled a spell so nicely that they delayed the advent of taking the new ball. And you told me that this is a game where he could come on early because he'll find drift. All of that happened. Why do you think Shubman Gill didn't bring him on early?
I honestly don't know. I'd have started with spin this morning.
Exactly. It was hot, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd have started with the spinners, maybe just for 2 or 3 overs, just to have a look. I don't know. Shubman will have to explain that, but particularly on the back of 4 for 22 at Lords, that drift. It's not always spin that gets batters out. When you've got the natural ability, just it's like little outswingers.
Yeah.
He bowled beautiful. I like that field that he has set where he says to the right hander, right, you can try and just knock it into that gap on the offside for one. And guess what? Oh, outside edge is found. Yeah, there was a few tactical manoeuvres, but I did feel for Shubman because Anshul Kamboj is obviously a debutant. And straight away when he bowled his first 2 or 3 overs, I thought he's not the style of bowler for this wicket. And it's really hard as a captain because you don't want to not bowl him. So you have to give him a ball. And then Charlotte Thakkor's bowling on this kind of wicket again. Old Trafford, historically, there's been nothing there for someone that bowls 78 to 81 miles an hour. There's never been any action there for a seamer of that kind of level. The action always happens for quality spin and 85 plus. And unfortunately for India, Jasprit Bumrah clearly has got some kind of issue with that ankle. He couldn't quite get it down. He was bowling 82 to 84. Siraj, you mentioned, it was tremendous. He was bowling at 85, and there was a little bit there. And I'll be interested. And the one thing I'll say about England and the way that they batted it, they've actually given their bowlers a day off.
Correct.
Very, very rare do the Bazballers give the bowlers a day off. Well, that was the day where they are learning, and the likes of Jofra Archer, Chris Woakes, Bryden Cast, they've had 15 cups of tea. They're ready to go on day 4. And by the way, TK, I don't like to be cruel to be kind, but the clouds are back tomorrow.
You guys are so lucky. It always happens. You guys come into bat, the sun is out. India comes into bat, there's cloud cover, grey, and then you switch on the floodlights as well.
I'm sorry.
But, jokes apart, it was pretty hard to see Shubman Gill trying to marshal his troops and move around fielders. From one end, which is the Brian Statham end, the ball was actually kicking off. I've got that wrong for the second time now. There's a bit of extra bounce consistently. On the other end, which is the Jimmy Anderson end, the ball was actually keeping low. And Gill started with Bumrah at the Brian Statham end and Siraj from the Jimmy Anderson end. And everyone felt that Jadeja was a good option considering when the ball was hard, he actually got the ball to turn. And that's what you thought he would do, but he didn't. He went with this, but didn't pick up any early wickets. They had a comfortable partnership. Ollie Pope and Joe Root batted till lunch without any issues. And then there was a couple of wickets post that when Washington came into the attack, but by then it was a bit late. And you almost felt towards the end of day's play, India actually didn't have too many answers with the way England batted. And now that takes us into fast forward. I got one for you. What's England thinking?
Win.
How?
I think they'll bat for an hour.
No hammer and tongs, or?
No, I think they'll just play. They'll just try and get as many as they possibly can in the first innings.
You think they'll be happy with the 200 only?
I think they'll look to bat as long as they possibly can. I think they'll think back to Edgbaston where India batted and batted and batted and batted and batted, and England will go, we'll bat and bat and bat and bat at Old Trafford.
Okay.
I think there's enough in this pitch, and when you've had a day and a half resting up,
Chris Woakes dismissal as well.
Yeah,
low end of the bat, keeping low.
There's plenty of balls from the Jimmy end that are keeping low, and we've seen plenty of bounce from the Statham end, and there's a bit of spin there for Liam Dawson. I'm actually really excited to see Liam Dawson bowl because there will be a bit of action there for him. He's got 5 left-handers to bowl to. That's if Rishabh comes out to bat, and there's plenty of rough outside the off stump to the left-handers. So I think day 4 could be the last day of this Test match, and it'll be the day that England win the series. If they don't win it tomorrow, they'll be very close, and we'll just have to finish off quickly on day 5.
From India's point of view, honestly, if they really want to stay in the game, the one thing they need to do is understand what it takes to draw the game. But there's so much time in the game, you can't think of a draw. You actually need to bat in such a way that you want to put pressure back on England, and then things will start opening up, whether it's going to be a draw, whether they can actually declare at some point to give England back an opportunity to say, here you go, try and get some runs against us. But all of that will depend on how India bat tomorrow. This pitch is not getting easy to bat on. From one end, it's keeping low, another, it's bouncing, and also there's quite a bit of rough outside there for the left-handers. And India are playing five left-handers in the top seven, which basically means it's going to be hard work with Liam Dawson in. And there is so much for us to come back and chat about. Thank you for listening to us. This is Michael and me signing off. This is Cricbuzz Chatter in association with Cricbuzz 11.
I'm just going to go and blow the clouds in.